Now, to put a build in this goon, we're going to need a few tools, like these ones here. First we have a small Phillips head screwdriver for screwy jobs, preferably one that'll fit inside your coils. Then we have a small flathead screwdriver for some scrapey work. You'll see what we would need that for later on. And then we have some coils here, shiny. Then we have some ceramic tweezers here for your pinching needs, and some pliers for your squeezing needs, some wire cutters for a bit snippy, some scissors for the lighter snipping work, and some cotton for wicking. The RDA that we're going to be using today is this Goon version 1.5. It's a 24mm RDA, and it can be used in either a single or dual coil setup, but today we're just going to go for a single coil build. The first thing we need to do here is disassemble the RDA so that we can get access to the post to fit our coils. So we'll just slot that apart, and there we have our build deck, which is a nice shiny new one. Next we need to grab ourselves some coils. Since we're just doing a single coil build, we'll only need one of these. These are some staple staggered fuse Claptons, looking really nice and shiny there. Now we want to use our Phillips head screwdriver to loosen the screws on the top of the posts to allow them to lift up. We don't want to fully remove them if possible, and for most builds you can probably just fit the coils in there without fully removing the clamps. Once we've loosened the screws, we can flip it over and gravity will render us some assistance by holding the clamps open. Then we can easily slip the coils into the posts and position them. What we're looking to do here is get the coil in there so it's positioned evenly between the posts. We also want to position the coil so it doesn't overhang the base, so everything fits together when we reassemble the RDA. For the moment we're just looking to get it roughly in line, as we will be making a few adjustments to the position in a moment anyway. Then we can just tighten the screws a little, not too much just yet, but enough to hold the coil in place. There we go. Now we want to take our screwdriver and put it through the coil, so we want to use it to position the coil. On this deck the posts are level, so we're going to want to use the screwdriver to bend the coil up a little until it sits somewhere roughly level with the posts. And now that we have the coil roughly positioned, we can start to do a bit more fine tuning. We can see here that the legs aren't positioned quite evenly, so we just need to move one of them out a little bit. There we see, just push that one out a little till they're in line. Then we can tighten that back up and make sure all the screws are tight now that we're happy with how we have the coil mounted. Now we can fine tune the position of the coil, just making sure that everything is lined up, looking nice and neat. And now we want to try the shell on it, so we can see what the clearance will be like inside and check the position of the coil near the airflow. You don't want the coil to touch the outer shell, and you probably want to also try to get a reasonable amount of clearance between the coil and the shell to avoid it from heating up a lot. We also want to try and position the coil so that it will sit slightly above the airflow. We can see there it's sat really nicely with good clearance, and it's right above the airflow to allow the air to flow clearly across the coil, and that'll give us some really good vapour production. Now that we're happy with the position of our coil, we can trim the excess off of the legs. Hopefully without firing them across the room like I did with the first one. Probably best to put your finger over the end so that doesn't happen. Now that's looking pretty nice and neat there already. There's just a slight skew to the coil there, so we'll just give that a quick tweak into line. And now we're going to take our pliers and just give the coil a little squeeze. So the coil is oriented nice and level. This also allows you to get the shape of the legs at the sides nice and neat, and will allow us to get really nice spacing on the wraps of the coil. And now we have the coil mounted and adjusted, looking really nice and neat, and now it's time to get them glowing. Now we can turn our mod on and screw our RDA onto it. Being careful not to fire the mod, because we don't really want to get burned or shocked or anything like that. That won't be any fun. And now we can fire this up a bit. We're going to need to grab our ceramic tweezers for this next part. As you can see by the small areas that are glowing much brighter and heating up much faster than the rest, we have some hot spots. You're pretty much always going to get these when installing new coils, so we'll sort these out now. So we just take our ceramic tweezers, very important that they're ceramic tweezers so that they're not conductive, and we're going to glow the coils and then just give them a squeeze while we pulse them. And we just want to pulse them while we give them a squeeze and see if we can get them to glow a bit more evenly. And it should gradually even out and the hot spots should reduce. Now we've got them glowing a bit more evenly across, but they're not quite right yet. So what we need to do now is turn our mod off so that we don't get shocked. And then we want to take our flat head screwdriver and we're going to do what is referred to as strumming. We use our screwdriver to scrape along the coils The idea being that we want to create a little bit of space between the wraps of the coil. So we want to apply a small amount of pressure to allow us to move the wraps just slightly, and we want to do this to the bottom, top and side of the coil, so that you get the wraps spaced nice and even all around the coil. And it looks nice and neat too. And then we can fire our mod back up and give those coils a pulse. And now we have some nice evenly glowing coils. All nice and glowy. So you just need to let that cool for a minute and we'll be all ready for some cotton. We grab ourselves a bag of nice fresh cotton and we're just going to rip ourselves a small strip off. Like so. Now we don't want it to be too thick, we don't want to be having to really stuff it through the coils, we just want it to sit snug in there. Also we're going to remove that outer layer of cotton, so we're left with this nice soft strip of cotton here. We just take off any of the loose bits there, and then we twist the end up a little to make it easy to thread through the coil. Next, of course, we thread the cotton through the coil like that, so it fits nice and snug in there. And just give it a little pull back and forth to bed the cotton in. Then we'll need our scissors to trim the edges of our cotton. So we'll have some nice, neat looking wicks. There we go. Nice, neat, fluffy wicks. We'll just quickly make sure that they're centered and remove any of those loose fibers. Now we need to grab our screwdriver again, and we're going to use it to just tuck the ends of the wicks into the juice well and make it all nice and neat. Just tuck all those in there. And there we go. Nice fluffy fresh wicks all ready for some juice. So we grab ourselves some juice here and just drip a little on there. Need to be a little steady at first with the fresh cotton, or you might get some drippage like me there. So there we go, look, we juice up the edges nice and carefully and make sure that we get a nice bit over the top there and down into the juice well so that the cotton will get nice and saturated. And there we go, all nice and juicy. Then we'll just let that sit for a minute to soak into the cotton. And now it's time to reassemble our RDA. So we want to replace the shell while making sure to align the air holes with the coil. This will ensure that we get good airflow over the coil and good vapour production, and hopefully keep the RDA cool. And there we go, we just stick the cap back on there. Then we can fire it up. And now, of course, for the final question. Does it vape? Yes, it does.